Sperm whale. Shame on man to give me such a name, thinking my head is full of semen and not oil. It's high time mankind learned who I really am. I live in a world that my ancestors conquered long before men made fateful contact with my family and staked their claim to the riches of our southern seas. My odyssey begins in the crushing, cold abyss, where creatures survive in permanent darkness, including the largest deep-sea monster of all. For millions of years, the freezing waters of the southern seas remained our domain. Man never ventured this far. But that wasn't to last. What corner of the planet has man not sought to explore and call his own, including the Roaring Forties, a wild expanse of air and water in the southern Indian Ocean, which is my home. For so long, the creatures of the deep, thousands of feet underwater, may as well not have existed. Who better to explore this alien world than me? I dive deeper than practically any other mammal, 10,000 feet or more, for over an hour at a time. No light penetrates beyond 1,000 feet of water. The only light in the dark zone is produced by the animals themselves, like this comb jellyfish, for instance. For my story and the cameras, the deep ocean will be lit by powerful projectors to cast light on this world of eternal darkness. Life down here subsists under extreme conditions. Temperature is stable at an almost freezing 1 degree Celsius, and pressure is simply unbelievable. At 3,000 feet, it is 100 times greater than it is at sea level. Darkness prevents photosynthesis, so expect no plant life, only animals. Among them, the Dumbo octopus. But I mustn't let Dumbo distract from the story of my family. It begins more than 200 years ago, before these islands between the Antarctic and South Africa were ever named. In spite of their relatively mild latitude, no trees grow here, even though it rains and snows 300 days a year. My grandfather, along with other adult males, settled around this archipelago because only they, with their generous, warm-blooded bodies, could stand the waters. 4 degrees Celsius on the surface. No wonder our smaller females stick to the tropics. As for Grandad, He stayed away from the islands because their shores were patrolled by his greatest enemies. Killer whales. With its 6-foot-high dorsal fin, this male belongs to a family pod led by a female, the matriarch. One can tell the females and young because of their short dorsal fins. The matriarch polices the coast with her highly evolved sense of hearing, which creates three-dimensional maps of the waters. She gets the full picture almost instantly as sound travels 5 times faster through water than it does through the air. The killer whales are on the lookout for any unusual or interesting activity. And there's plenty of it. A happy band of 2 million king penguins. That's a lot of mouths to feed, especially hungry chicks who depend on their parents to chance the waters for food. The matriarch knows only too well the routes penguins take to feed. Males, too, know the ropes. But king penguins have a memory of sorts. A memory that equates killer whales with death. Underwater, penguins emit weak sound waves that mix confusingly for the killer whales with other ambient sounds. So the matriarch bides her time until her prey surfaces. Killer whales are not only efficient predators, it's the way they eat that's so awesome. Pressing the animal between tongue and palate, they squeeze the meat, fat and guts out in a single chunk. The older female will pass these skills on to her granddaughter, who, in time, will become the matriarch of the family. Keeping a healthy distance from all this killing was Grandad, who was doing well for himself out in the open sea. But one day, totally out of the blue, new visitors graced these shores. Those who would finally give our islands a name. They came from places Grandad never knew. Nothing would ever be the same again. Remember, all this happened 2 centuries ago. I'm talking, of course, about men, American whalers from Massachusetts. In 1772, stories began circulating about the adventures of a French captain, Marion Dufresne. He was sailing in search of a southern continent when he crossed waters haunted by sea monsters. At 46 degrees south, he stumbled on the islands. Dufresne took possession of them in the name of France and called them Crozet, after his first mate. But France was a world away and couldn't hope to protect her claim. The American whalers, the South Seamen, took full advantage.
Lead the way! Steady now! Steady, I say! Pull her in, boy! Oh, starboard there, boys!
Guess who they were after? The great whales, like my ancestors.
There she goes! Sperm whale ahead! Pull together! Leave a leg, lad. Over the side.
Our powerful forward blows created great excitement on the high seas and gave us away.
Come back, you good boy! Not for much longer!
The South Seamen knew our weaknesses, the 10 minutes we need to breathe on the surface, and our blind spot.
That's what you come for, boy. Keep going. Starboard, no. Whoa.
They came from behind or head on to aim harpoons into our first dorsal bump.
He'll be back. Mark my word. Yeah, it's important. Steady, lads. He hears us. Keep quiet. Now, give it to him. He won't reach again for another hour. Miles away from here. Keep your course.
When my grandfather felt threatened, he'd call other males with clicks called coders. They're the most powerful calling signals in the animal kingdom and can be heard over 7 miles away. His mates responded in kind, a group of about 100 males known as the Crozet Gang.
Shut your mouth and pull.
I don't know if I can, sir. My hands are bleeding.
Their instinct was to stay close in the face of the unknown.
To starboard.
The whalers wanted the group to break up. They were as patient as Job. On this fateful day for my ancestors, instinct betrayed one of their number. When an adult male perceives a threat, like a rival during the mating season, a second instinct drives him head-to-head against the competition. The larger member of the group saw the whaling boat as just such competition and broke away. It was my grandfather. As long as the whales stayed close, the men in their fragile boat could do little. Then they plunged, all except Grandad.
What's happening, sir? They're all diving.
Don't worry, lad. Flies will show up any minute now.
Where's he gone, sir? Where's the big male?
Sly devil. He's eyeing us all right. There! Steady, lad. Nice and easy. Right, let him have it.
Some of my ancestors were hauled onto the beach to be cut up and their fat boiled down for oil to light the South Seamen's towns. They nicknamed the Crozet gang the 40-barrel bulls because each one of them filled that many barrels with oil. To avoid risky landing, South Seamen then developed a new technique. They boiled the whales directly on board. The slaughter ended at the turn of the 19th century. There were simply too few of my ancestors left. The Crozet gang was all but wiped out. Nearly 100 years later, whaling was officially banned in the Indian Ocean, and France was granted exclusive control of the Crozet Islands, and in particular, their vast oceanic shelf that was visited by rare survivors, like my father. He knew all about the somber cemetery on the ocean floor. All dead matter rains down from the surface. This is what remains of Grandad. When the whalers had finished with him, they cast him back out to be picked over by scavengers. And this cemetery is full of them. Take the crinoids, or sea lilies. They filter feed off organic particles floating in the currents. And here's the aptly named tripod fish. And the Antarctic toadfish. It can engulf prey larger than it is. And the Peniagoni sea cucumber. It can swim 1,000 feet above the bottom to avoid predators like the deep-sea crabs. Millions of these crabs sup quietly in the rich currents, confident their armory will protect them from their predators, ones with fins and jaws. Most common of all among finned predators is the rat tail, with its uncommonly large bladder that beats like a drum. The drum simply helps them to keep contact with each other. In the shallow abyss, around 1,500 feet, schools of alvin offer a tantalizing feast, but the rat tail is no match for a far superior predator on the Crozet shelf. It's all eyes and teeth for killing. It weighs up to 800 pounds and grows to 6 feet. Patagonian toothfish, killers in ambush. Toothfish share the alvin with squid. That's if the toothfish don't go for the squid instead. Their secret weapon, the largest neurons of any animal on the planet, to power lightning reflexes. My father, like all sperm whales, also feeds mainly on squid, but he doesn't rely on conventional eyesight to do this, but on his own sonar. Now let me explain why our heads are full of oil and not sperm. Fact one, The oil helps amplify and orientate our echolocations, those sounds we send out that bounce back to us. Fact 2, we have the largest brains in the world, and they create images of our surroundings from the echoes. If we raise the frequency, sort of high voltage stakes, we can hone in on the size and direction of our prey. But what's this? The comb jellyfish certainly isn't making this racket. My father never heard these sounds until he was 80 years old at the end of his long life. It's coming from the surface. Men with their toys again. Thankfully, they're not whalers, but French oceanographers, mapping the ocean floor. My father carries a similar map in his brain, and for good reason. He must move on from the cold Crozet waters to find a mate in the tropics. The ban on whaling in the Indian Ocean allowed the Crozet gang to reproduce and regroup, unsuspectingly, in the Mozambique Channel. This is where my mother lives, along with other females. You can tell they're a mere 30 feet long. Old bulls like my father grow up to 50 feet. In addition to their supersized brain, they are the largest toothed predator in the world. But enough boasting. This was only a nursery. It's where I grew up. While my mother hunted, another female was always on hand to watch over me. They taught me the codas and cries which vary from clan to clan, so we know who's talking. As I grew up, I met males from other nurseries around the Indian Ocean, and one day we headed, like my ancestors, to the kingdom of the sea monsters, the Crozet Islands. Today, the waters around the archipelago sound very different from what my father or grandfather were used to. Such unnatural sounds, but they attract all manner of marine life, including ourselves and Dumbo. It's like a dinner bell. What are these lines with nasty hooks? 20,000 of them. My ears see everything. The anchors drag mile upon mile of long lines from the surface to the bottom. All eyes are on what dangle from the hooks. Holy baits! Slices of oily mackerel! But the Abralia squid knows when to turn down a free meal and makes itself scarce by blending into the surrounding light. Dragged down by anchors and their own weight, the lines finally lay on the bottom. The restaurant is open for several hours. The menu entices none of the sub-Antarctic squids. In fact, none of the squids at all. Like this Antarctic flying squid, they prefer their meals to be alive and not on tenterhooks. At night, they go to the surface in search of anything that's floating around, as long as it's the right size. Far too large and dangerous is this Hictioturtis squid. Squids are always welcomed on the surface by other nocturnal feeders. White-chinned petrel. But who or what is responsible for the long lines? Inside these floating factories, human hands also work through the night. Finally, fishermen decorate the lines with bright toys equipped with radar transmission. Their ruckus won't go unnoticed. Others will hone in on this from 10 miles away. Our old enemy, killer whales, and this time they're out at sea. Today, there are about 100 of them around Crozet. Unlike my family, they've never moved from here, so they've developed a specific dialect of clicks, unique to their isolated pods. The matriarch's language is so precise, she's able to alert her family and others in the area. Her cries carry over a radius of 2 miles, but what exactly is her message? That she's found some toys? Such mammals used to feasting on penguins don't dive like we do. But the longliners changed all that. They attract one of the least known and rarely filmed mammals in the southern polar seas. Hourglass dolphins. They're the only dolphins that have never been seen near land. Anything serves as a pretext to turn the empty ocean into a playground. Including me. Now, thanks to the whaling ban, here I am with other males confronting fishermen. But this time, the tables are turned. We're after them. Perhaps because of my ancestors' experience, we first keep a healthy distance from the boat, the green one over there. Oh, but why, oh, why do they have to show up out here? Have they lost their taste for penguins? Can't they see we're 4 times bigger and 30 times heavier than them? There must be another reason. The toys? Or do the killer whales know, like us, about the lions? The matriarch is certainly on to something. They haul the toys out before the lions. But what will come up with the lions? They've got the answer. But it's all for nothing. Only measly bait. I could have told them. To avoid killer whales, I can dive 10,000 feet to inspect the lines. But I'm happy to stay around 1,000 feet, the cut-off point for killer whales. It really is a bad day for this longliner. But there are 5 other boats out there. Same shape, different color. The fishermen hate us, especially the killer whales, whom they blame most for trying to steal their catch, and rightly so. The white boat has no alternative but to shake them off, even if it means covering hundreds of miles. These desolate islands are continually battered by the westerlies of the roaring 40s, with winds up to 125 miles an hour and more. At such speed, clouds hug the earth. And waterfalls reach for the sky. In this extreme environment, nature defies the laws of gravity. Even land is no barrier to the onslaught of the westerlies. They whip up the biggest waves in the world. But the winds are oily sweet. They carry the scent of fish. I'm drawn in the same direction, but by quite a different signal, beating below the storm, far out to sea. Another floating restaurant. When the longliners and their airborne and maritime escorts stop, it's first come, first served. The matriarch reserves the right to lead the way. Curiously, the males wait patiently on the surface for the females to feed them. The interval is enough for the longliners to haul up rat tails and the most prized catch of all, Patagonian toothfish. The white boat devours 5 tons of toothfish on a good day. I'm in no hurry. I'm alone this time and vulnerable. Killer whales could easily attack me. They'll certainly be less accommodating with the lines biting. The matriarch leads a blockade against me. I know their game. It's called intimidation. I'll try to stay close to the boat. That way, they can only attack me from one side. They chase me off. The matriarch shadows me to communicate my movement to her pod. Very clever. A killer flank blocks my path back to the boat. The pod tries to frighten and disorient me with underwater detonations and tail slaps. But I'm determined to hold my own. I'm completely surrounded. I follow my granddad's example and call for help. But my clan must be beyond the 7-mile limit of my cries. Alone like this, my size and weight are now a burden. What's more, a male sneaks underneath me to stop me diving. They even know my blind spot, like the South Seaman. My only defense is to thrash out and hope to connect. They're too quick and noisy for me. I have one last card to play. I've got to make room for myself. Made it. The deep beckons. That's what they wanted. They got it. Good luck to them up there. Oh, I hear their victory songs, all right. No way I'm going to risk my life for a few measly toothfish on a string when the abyss provides all I need, over a ton of food every day. Still, I put up a good fight, and the longliners should thank me for distracting the killer whales. They return to their routine, males on the surface, females down the line. The females are very picky. They only take the oily toothfish and leave the bony rat tail. Here's a male's just dessert. And he isn't the only opportunist around. Others fly in for the occasion. White-chinned petrels regularly follow boats and dive down to 30 feet for a catch. Giant albatrosses wouldn't normally gather in open water like this, but the longliners have changed these animals' feeding habits. Neither killer whales nor albatrosses could ever hope otherwise to feed on deep-sea fish. But now, most of my neighbours in the South Seas have adapted to this rich new source of protein. The fishing boats have become an artificial oasis for scavengers and live prey hunters alike. And long may it last. Fewer longliners are now allowed in the Crozet waters to protect the overfished toothfish. So our adventure with the boats looks set to continue. As for me, who says I don't enjoy my fair share from the lines? It's a secret I'll keep for as long as the boats keep coming. And I've three last little secrets. First, as a senior member of the Deep Sea Club, which excludes killer whales, I can say the natural balance really is changing down here. Fewer toothfish allow their prey and mine, the squids, to age quietly and grow incredibly. Take this one from the Gonatidae family. The giant clams in the background are a foot long. That gives some idea of the squid size. Tentacles 3 feet long, and the mantle a whopping 12 feet. I clearly lack for nothing when it comes to my favorite prey. Now, for my ultimate confession. It's buried deep in the history of my dynasty. The secret is inside my head. It's how I sometimes capture my prey, like the large squids. When the South Seamen tore my granddad apart, they discovered this in his stomach. A viperfish, one of the fiercest and most elusive predators of the deep. There were no tooth marks on its body. The truth is that we sperm whales use the oil in our heads to focus high-frequency clicks to stun our prey. The first whalers got my name wrong. But now, at least, the record is straight. Let's keep it that way.